At 3:45 a.m., in a classified airbase tucked deep in the Nevada desert, U.S. Air Force pilot, callsign Spectre, felt a knot tighten in their stomach while adjusting the JHMCS helmet visor. The order they'd been waiting months for came through with razor-sharp clarity. Authorization confirmed. Immediate takeoff. The deafening roar of the F-22 Raptor's twin Pratt & Whitney F-119 PW-100 engines shattered the night, and within minutes, the world's most advanced stealth fighter tore through the dark sky. The mission was precise but perilous. Neutralize a fortified Houthi stronghold in Yemen's rugged mountains, a bastion that had defied coalition forces for years. This wasn't just any strike. It marked the F-22 Raptor's combat debut, facing an enemy no one had anticipated for this invisible predator. The F-22, with its sleek, angular design and radar-absorbing coating, had a radar cross-section the size of a marble, making it a ghost to enemy defenses. From the cockpit, Spectre monitored data projected onto the visor, tracking targets beyond the line of sight. The AN/APG-77 AESA radar in the jet's nose scanned the horizon with surgical precision, capable of detecting and tracking multiple targets over 150 miles away. But this mission wasn't just about the Raptor's tech. The Houthi base, dubbed Al Nasser, was nestled in a remote valley at 6,000 feet, shielded by an integrated air defense system. Intelligence reports detailed Soviet-era SA-6 missile launchers, long-range search radars, and an electronic jamming system of unknown origin, possibly Iranian. Though outdated, this gear was deadly if wielded with cunning. Al Nasser wasn't your average outpost. Carved into Yemen's Rocky Mountains, its tunnels housed weapon stockpiles, command centers, and launch platforms for kamikaze drones. For years, the Houthis had turned this complex into the nerve center of their asymmetric warfare campaign, orchestrating attacks on Red Sea shipping and Saudi border bases. Their drones, packed with makeshift explosives, had sunk 2 civilian freighters, damaged a coalition frigate, and spread terror across the region. Al Nasser was the brain behind these strikes, and its destruction was now a strategic priority. But the Houthis were no pushovers. They'd learned from past clashes, scattering defenses, camouflaging radars, and relocating missile launchers every few hours to avoid detection. Spectre cruised at 50,000 feet, holding Mach 1.5. The F-22 was loaded for versatility. 2 AIM-120D AMRAAM air-to-air missiles in the side base, 4 GPS-guided GBU-39 small-diameter bombs in the ventral bay, and a sniper ATP targeting pod for pinpoint strikes. Unlike drones or cruise missiles, the Raptor could slip into enemy airspace undetected, hit with devastating accuracy, and vanish before the enemy could blink. But the plan was intricate. Al Nasser was fortified with layered defenses, including 23 MIA Zu-23-2 anti-aircraft guns capable of firing 2,000 rounds per minute. While imprecise against a stealth jet, a lucky shot could spell disaster. At 4:30 a.m., Spectre received an encrypted transmission from an E-3 Sentry AWACS orbiting 185 miles away. Target confirmed. Active search radar in sector Delta 3. Take it out before proceeding. Spectre adjusted course, dropping to 40,000 feet to stay off Houthi radar. Through the visor, they analyzed enemy data. A 1S91 radar tied to the SA-6 system with a 45-mile detection range. But to the F-22, it was blind. Spectre selected a GBU-39, programmed the radar's coordinates, and released it from 37 miles out. The bomb, with its pop-out wings, glided silently toward the target, guided by GPS and inertial navigation. At 4:37 a.m., the GBU-39 obliterated the 1S91 radar in a fiery blast. The explosion shredded the antenna and electronics, leaving the Houthis blind in that sector. As Al Nasser's operators scrambled to process the signal loss, Spectre launched Phase 2. With the primary radar down, the F-22 could close in on the complex. But then a new threat emerged. A second radar, hidden on a hillside 5 miles from the target, began emitting intermittent signals, a Houthi trick to avoid detection. Spectre knew that if it locked on, the SA-6 launchers could unleash a missile salvo that would complicate the mission, even for a stealth jet. Without hesitation, Spectre used the sniper ATP to scan the terrain. Thermal imaging revealed the radar, barely visible under a net of fake vegetation among the rocks. Another GBU-39 was selected and launched. The bomb sliced through the netting and detonated, sending shards of metal and rock skyward. With both radars gone, Al Nasser was exposed, but Spectre knew the Houthis wouldn't fold easily. Intelligence warned of Zu-23-2 guns and possible manpads, portable missiles fired by ground troops. While less effective against an F-22, a stray hit remained a real threat. At 4:50 a.m., Spectre positioned the F-22 6 miles from the target, descending to 26,000 feet for a clearer line of sight. Through the sniper ATP, they spotted the complex's main entrance, a concrete reinforced tunnel flanked by 2 watchtowers. Searchlights swept the sky, and Zu-23-2 gunners were on high alert, likely aware of the radar losses. Spectre programmed the 2 remaining GBU-39s to hit the tunnel and an adjacent structure identified as the command center. The bombs were released at 4:53 a.m., gliding toward their targets with surgical precision. As the bombs fell, Spectre banked the F-22 north, preparing to egress. Then an alarm blared in the cockpit. A surface-to-air missile had been launched. Despite losing their main radars, the Houthis had activated a mobile SA-6 launcher hidden in a nearby ravine. The missile, guided by a makeshift optical system, was climbing fast toward the F-22. Spectre reacted in a split second, triggering the jet's electronic countermeasures and deploying magnesium flares to throw off the missile. Simultaneously, they pulled a high-G maneuver, twisting the Raptor at an angle that would have torn apart any other fighter. The missile streaked past 650 feet away and exploded harmlessly in the air. At 4:55 a.m., the 2 GBU-39s hit their marks. The first slammed into the tunnel entrance, collapsing it and sealing the main access. The second struck the command center, obliterating its communication systems and killing the Houthi officers coordinating the defense. The blasts echoed through the valley, sending plumes of smoke and dust into the sky. But the mission wasn't over. Intelligence suggested the Houthis stored kamikaze drones in a secondary depot 1,600 feet from the main tunnel. Out of bombs, Spectre decided to use the F-22's 20mm M61A2 Vulcan cannon, a risky move requiring a low-altitude run. At 5 a.m., Spectre dropped to 6,500 feet, screaming in at 560 mm. Through the sniper ATP, they located the depot, a camouflaged building covered in wooden panels and netting. Activating the Vulcan, Spectre unleashed a 1-second burst of 100 rounds. The depleted uranium-tipped shells ripped through the roof, detonating the explosives inside. A fireball lit up the valley, and the wreckage of dozens of Houthi drones littered the ground. But the strike drew fire from the Zu-23-2 guns, which sprayed rounds toward the F-22's position. Spectre climbed fast, using the jet's agility to dodge the anti-aircraft fire. With the depot destroyed, Spectre was ordered to conduct a final recon sweep before heading back. At 16,400 feet, they used the sniper ATP to assess the damage. The footage showed a ruined complex. The main tunnel collapsed, the command center in rubble, and the drone depot engulfed in flames. The anti-aircraft guns kept firing blindly, but without radars, the Houthis were shooting into the dark. Al Nasser, once a thorn in the coalition's side, was out of commission, yet Spectre knew the job wasn't done. Intelligence hinted at a Houthi supply convoy moving toward a resupply point 9 miles east, possibly carrying drone components. At 5:10 a.m., the AWACS updated Spectre. Convoy spotted in sector Bravo 3, neutralize if feasible. Out of bombs, Spectre opted for the Vulcan cannon again. Dropping to 5,000 feet and closing in at 500 mmHg, they spotted 3 tarp-covered trucks escorted by 2 vehicles armed with heavy machine guns. 2 short Vulcan bursts shredded the main trucks, triggering secondary explosions that confirmed they were carrying explosives. The escort vehicles returned fire, but Spectre was already climbing out of their reach. The convoy, which could have restocked the Houthis, was now a smoldering heap. At 5:20 a.m., Spectre began the return leg, pushing Mach 1.8 to clear Yemeni airspace before dawn. In the cockpit, adrenaline still surged. The mission had been executed flawlessly, but Spectre knew the Houthis wouldn't quit. Al Nasser's destruction was a crushing blow, but also a message. Western tech and precision could reach even the most fortified targets. Still, Spectre couldn't help but wonder how long it would take the Houthis to adapt, as they'd done before. As the F-22 crossed the Red Sea, a second strike was underway from the sea. The USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer positioned 125 miles off Yemen's coast, unleashed a salvo of 6 Tomahawk cruise missiles toward a secondary target, a Houthi ballistic missile depot 30 miles from Al Nasser. The missiles, guided by GPS and Tercom, hugged the terrain to avoid detection. Each carried a 1,000-pound high-explosive warhead designed to penetrate bunkers and detonate with devastating accuracy. At 5:35 a.m., the Tomahawk struck the depot, triggering a chain of secondary explosions that lit up the horizon. The ballistic missiles, intended for Saudi cities, were reduced to scrap before they could be fired. The USS Grovely wasn't alone. The USS Delaware, a Virginia-class submarine, patrolled silently 60 miles offshore, monitoring Houthi communications with its AN BQQ-10 sonar system. At 5:45 a.m., it detected a fast-moving Houthi boat attempting to flee the area, likely carrying a senior officer. The Delaware launched a Mark 48 torpedo, which hit the boat at 5:48 a.m., obliterating it in seconds. The explosion sent a water plume skyward, and the boat's wreckage sank beneath the waves. This strike further crippled the Houthi chain of command, leaving their forces scattered and leaderless. But the operation was far more complex. At 6 a.m., a SEAL Team 6 unit was deployed from an MH-60 Black Hawk helicopter 12 miles from Al-Nasr. Their mission: infiltrate a secondary Houthi communications hub used to coordinate drone attacks. Equipped with night vision goggles and suppressed M4A1 rifles, the SEALs navigated the rocky terrain, dodging Houthi patrols and booby traps. At 6:15 a.m., they reached the camouflaged facility on a hillside. They silently neutralized the guards and planted C4 charges on the generators and antennas. At 6:25 a.m., the charges detonated, destroying the comms equipment and severing the Houthis' links to their operatives. The SEALs exfiltrated undetected, reaching a pickup point 3 miles away. At 6:30 a.m., as Spectre headed back, a fourth element kicked in. An MQ-9 Reaper drone operated from a base in Djibouti was sent for post-strike recon. Flying at 23,000 feet, the Reaper's electro-optical sensor captured detailed images of Al-Nasr. The footage showed a devastated complex. The main tunnel collapsed, the command center in ruins, the drone depot in ashes, and the supply convoy destroyed, but the drone spotted movement. A small group of Houthi survivors attempting to regroup in a nearby cave. With command's approval, the Reaper's operator launched an AGM-114 Hellfire missile, which hit the cave entrance at 6:45 a.m., neutralizing the threat. At 7:00 a.m., a second F-22, call sign Phantom, took off from a base in Qatar for a support mission. Its target, a Houthi observation post 18 miles from Al-Nasr, identified as a lookout for coalition movements, Phantom flew at 46,000 feet, cruising at Mach 1.6. Armed with 2 GBU-39s, they located the post, a small camouflaged bunker on a mountain ridge. At 7:20 a.m., a single bomb obliterated the bunker, killing the Houthi spotters and their comms gear. This ensured the Houthis couldn't track coalition forces in the region. At 7:30 a.m., a third element activated. A signals intelligence team operating from a listening post in Saudi Arabia intercepted Houthi communications indicating an attempt to evacuate critical equipment from a secondary warehouse 25 miles from Al-Nasr. A pair of F-15E Strike Eagles, call sign Hammer, were scrambled from a regional base. Each carried 2,000-pound GBU-31 JDAM bombs. At 7:45 a.m., the Strike Eagles found the warehouse, a cluster of camouflaged containers in a narrow canyon. They dropped 4 JDAMs, which hit with pinpoint accuracy, obliterating the warehouse and triggering secondary explosions that confirmed the presence of explosives. The Houthis' plan to relocate their gear was dead in the water. If you're enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. At 8:00 a.m., Spectre's F-22 touched down in Nevada, its weapons base empty and its airframe unscathed. On the ground, intelligence teams pored over satellite, Reaper, and Strike Eagle imagery. Al-Nasr was a smoking crater, its tunnels collapsed, and its defenses obliterated. The kamikaze drones that had terrorized the Red Sea were gone. The ballistic missiles that could have hit Riyadh were scrap. The comms hub linking the Houthis to their allies was toast. The supply convoy that could have restocked their operations was rubble. The observation post tracking coalition movements was erased, and the secondary warehouse with critical gear was ash. The Houthi leaders who'd orchestrated attacks from Al-Nasr were either dead or scattered. The mission's success wasn't just Spectre's F-22. It was a masterclass in modern warfare's integrated systems. Spectre's Raptor took out air defenses and key targets with surgical precision. The USS Gravely's Tomahawks demolished secondary infrastructure, ensuring the Houthis couldn't rearm. The USS Delaware's torpedo eliminated fleeing leaders. The SEALs severed the comms network, cutting off command lines. The Reaper ensured no threats lingered. Phantom's F-22 blinded the Houthis' lookout post, and the F-15Es crushed the secondary warehouse, slamming the door on any quick recovery. Each platform played its part in a symphony of destruction, executed with precision the Houthis could never match. But the victory wasn't total. As Spectre stepped out of the cockpit, they knew the war in Yemen was far from over. The Houthis, though battered, would keep fighting from the mountains, using guerrilla tactics and improvised weapons. Al-Nasr's destruction was a major blow, but not a knockout. The coalition would need to stay sharp, anticipate the enemy's next moves, and develop new strategies to maintain the edge. Backed by their allies, the Houthis were likely already plotting their response, perhaps acquiring new defenses or crafting tactics to counter the coalition's technological superiority. In the hours after the strike, satellite images of Al-Nasser leaked to the media. The base, once a symbol of Houthi defiance, was now a pile of debris. Headlines hailed a surgical strike and the F-22's combat debut. But for Spectre, Phantom, the Strike Eagle pilots, and the teams behind the mission, it wasn't about headlines. It was about neutralizing a threat, protecting allies, and sending a message to the world. No one is out of reach. The F-22, with its stealth and lethal precision, had proven why it ruled the skies. But it also highlighted the limits of tech against a resilient, adaptable foe. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more combat and military tech stories. See you in the next one.